No.
That's gonna work great, man. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And welcome to season 5 of IFB Interfleet Broadcasting. I'm your co-host, New York Pete, and over on the other side is our tech director and other half of IFB, none other than the Tipsy Toaster, aka Chris Moore, our resident robot-based life form IL5. Let me thank you all for tuning in to our sci-fi pop culture show. We have deep roots in the classic 70s and 80s TV shows, movies, comics, and culture of our youth. And we're big Battlestar Galactica 1978 fans. So welcome, and let's dive right in. We have a couple of special guests tonight. We have the 501st Empire City Garrison's Commander Chris Fian is going to give us our Star Wars update. And then, of course, we also have, man, it's a special guest that we've had before. We're super, super honored to have Jean-Pierre Dorléac is back, and we've exchanged some questions, all, of course, Galactica related. I mean, he's done a ton of shows and things, but we're gonna talk strictly Galactica. I had a whole bunch of questions I always wanted to know about, and we sent them up to Jean-Pierre. So we're gonna talk all about that stuff, guys. So be ready for that. And Tipsy, I know that you're messing with buttons and technologies, all Cylon based and 01100s. So I don't know if you're able to use your second brain or not, but you're gonna need it tonight. Oh yeah. So if you're able to bring on Commander Chris Fian, we'll have him do our Star Wars update. And let's see. I just want to, as you're doing that, let me quickly recognize everybody that's taking the time out to come on live. Trey Nar, Erica, Chuck, and Kim Harms, and James McCoy, Lola, who's in Florida, and there's a storm hitting. I think she has no power, but she's using her phone, I believe, to watch IFB live. Thank you very much, Lola. Stay safe, all of you that are in Florida. And Paul Rotter, Commander Kane, thank you for tuning in. Always one of our big supporters. He's the founder of the Colonial Warrior social media site on Facebook. Everybody in the business knows Paul. Thank you so much. Award-winning sci-fi author Bert Oliver Boehmer, who is actually co-hosted And I'm going to be meeting up with him soon at the LA Comic-Con in Los Angeles, California. So I'll have hopefully a little bit of footage as best I can, cluing you in on what's going on. And are you ready there, Tipsy? Is that why you're drinking from your coffee mug? No, there's no audio on your part,
Let's try
so
that again.
okay. So George G in the house, and good. I'm glad that you're Adam. Thank you for joining us live. And let me see, Dr. Chris McCauley is tied up in meetings or something, or doing crazy things in the TARDIS, so he may not come back. But he did drop in and say hello. James McCoy, Kim Harms, and as you guys drop in, I like to shout out. Oh, Sean Shallow from Battlestar Bulletin Board. Well, let's toast to the fans with our now Merlin's Munchie Coffee Company, since we are affiliated with Merlin. And you find the QR code to order your coffee from Merlin on our site. It's pinned up at the top. So here's to you guys.
Yes. So I have the caramel dark chocolate.
I'm drinking my espresso. Thank you very much.
I have the caramel dark chocolate.
Yep. And there you go. So you can use that QR code. And fans fuel the fleet, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
That's for you.
All right. Now that that's out of the way,
wait a minute.
I'm sure Chris Fian has been, oh boy. Okay. He's been patiently waiting to unleash all things Star Wars. So while you concoct some kind of new, oh boy. All right. Bailey's,
there we go.
Yes, of course. Yep. S'mores Bailey. No, yeah.
Chocolate and chocolate should go up.
Haha, very good. Anyway, so
wow,
good, right?
That is good.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. Well,
all right, you want to feed in now? I think,
yeah.
Chris, can you talk?
Yes,
see if you got audio?
Yes.
I'm good. I'm good.
He's good.
There we go.
Absolutely, he's good. There we go. All right, cool. Well, welcome aboard, Chris, the other Chris. Thank you for taking the time out and being patient with us. Give us Star Wars, man. Give it to us. Come on.
Well,
What's
thanks
going
for
on?
having me back. There's a lot of news bites since the last time I was here about 2 months ago. Let me start with the movie front. As you may have heard, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie production is underway. They've started some pre-production. They've actually started some filming, and that will be released sometime in 2026. So people are getting very excited that the Mandalorian is breaking out into his own movie. And they made a astounding announcement about 2 weeks ago that Sigourney Weaver is going to play a part in the movie. So another maven from other sci-fi properties is going to be joining the Star Wars universe. So people have been very excited to hear that. So far, we have no idea what she's playing or who she's playing or how big of a part she's going to have. But just her being attached to Star Wars in any capacity is just incredible news. We also heard that Pedro Pascal is going to be participating in the filming and being on set. As you know, there was some controversy over the past 2 seasons or so of Mandalorian, like how much was he actually there? A lot of times his stunt double was there while he was off filming The Last of Us, which is probably happening again because they're just finishing up Last of Us Season 2 right now. And supposedly he's going to be freed up to be able to do some on-set stuff for the movie the end of this year. So he will be participating in person, and people are very happy to hear that. But his portrayal is really mostly about the voice, and he has become the voice of the Mandalorian, and I think that's going to continue far into the future. Not much else on the rest of the movie front. Daisy Ridley made some comments about how she was excited to come back for the new Jedi Order movie. The other movies are still kind of, in flux and pre-production, and there's been no real hard dates or any hard information about any of those other movies. So we'll just have to wait and see. On the television front, we did finally finish The Acolyte. The Acolyte premiered, aired. I'd have to be honest and say mixed reactions. Some fans embraced it and thought it was great, a great departure. Some fans hated it, and some haters just hated it just to hate something. So it was a little mix of everything. And unfortunately, I think that really hurt the property. I watched it. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was great. I think it suffered from a lot of the faults that Book of Boba Fett fell into, doing a lot of things out of order, a lot of flashbacks for a new set of characters where you get, you know, a new audience should just be introduced to the characters, doing a lot of flashbacks and flash forwards and retreading the same storyline over two or three times during that series. And what I'm speaking about specifically was the events that happened in the Witch's Den from the perspective of the Jedi's, and then, or from the twins, and then from the perspective of the Jedi's. Those two episodes are almost identical. There wasn't that much revealed, and you're like, what is the big deal? Why are we seeing it from their perspective? It didn't really make much sense. I think it suffered from a little of what was happening in Obi-Wan and Book of Boba Fett, stretching something that really could have been a 2-hour, 2.5 hour movie, or maybe even a duology, a 2-movie deal, and stretching that out into a 6 or 8 episode series where it absolutely did not need to be that. Obi-Wan proved it with the Kai Patterson cut. And I've mentioned this many times before on this show. You can seek it out. It's called the Obi-Wan, the Patterson cut. It's a 2-hour and 15-minute cut of Obi-Wan that cuts out 4.5 hours of nonsense and makes for an exceptionally tight, very well done movie that's perfectly packaged in 2 hours and 15 minutes. Trust me, seek it out. The big news with the Patterson cut was they did the same treatment to the Book of Boba Fett and treated it as a part 1 and a part 2 movie. So that was a 4.5 hour movie. He took all the pieces out of Mandalorian that had to do with Boba Fett and anything that they kind of related, and added that to the first movie. So it was like a journey of the two Mandos finding their way. And the second movie is all the best bits, mostly from Book of Boba Fett and a little bit with the Mando stuff going to get Grogu from Luke Skywalker. I watched them over Labor Day weekend, and unbelievable improvement to the Book of Boba Fett series, putting the stuff in order, in chronological order, not pieces from Mando that you have to watch to get what's happening in Book of Boba Fett. Everything just laid out perfectly. I gotta say, he knocked it out of the park. Well, the other big surprise with his cuts was over the Labor Day weekend, everybody was waiting for the Ahsoka trailer. He was going to release a trailer for his Ahsoka movie, cutting down the Ahsoka series into a 2 hour and 15-minute or so movie.
Wow.
He surprised everybody and released the Ahsoka Patterson cut over Labor Day weekend. So I had a very busy Labor Day weekend watching a lot of these fan edit movies. My goodness, the Ahsoka cut, again, he's worked unbelievable magic. Ahsoka suffered from a little bit of that stretching out, a little bit of not so snappy dialogue, a whole one of those ridiculous storylines in the beginning with the ball map that they had to get, and then the map gets stolen. He cuts that all out. He basically cuts out the first 2.5 episodes and puts in the crawl. He puts that they already have the map and they're in a race to try to beat them to find the general. It's unbelievable. I'm like, the way he did it and the way he edited it, you still got the point. You still got all the good bits. You still got all the stuff with Ahsoka and Anakin. You still got the big finale and the big showdown at the end. But you didn't have all that filler. You didn't have all that nonsense. You didn't have all that leading up to nothing that was in the series. The guy really knows Star Wars and really is an incredible editor. And I strongly recommend fans who see these edits, you're going to see these series in a whole new light. And unfortunately kind of see that they're really just dragging these series out when they could be much more concise. I have huge fears for Skeleton Crew. They just released the release date. It is coming out December 3rd and with a 2-part premiere. So that will air before the end of the year, the first few episodes. That's kind of been marketed as Goonies in space. I really have my reservations. I love Jude Law, who's going to be leading the show, but then we also found out that the guy who played Urkel is going to be in it.
Oh boy.
So again, I don't like to make assumptions. I like to give things a chance, and like with the Acolyte, there was things I did like, but I thought it suffered from again really bad, lazy storytelling, really overblown. I'm hoping Kai Patterson does a cut of Acolyte. Maybe he can improve it. Maybe telling it in chronological order would improve it significantly. I don't know. But we also did find out with the Acolyte that there probably will not be a season two. It didn't do very well ratings wise. It didn't do very well fan reception wise. So I don't see much of a future with that property. So we have to hope that Skeleton Crew maybe appeals to maybe a younger audience and gets people excited about Star Wars. And then we have to look forward to Andor season two. Andor also, I personally was not a huge fan of it. I liked some of the cool Dark Empire spy stuff that was going on. Again, they really dragged it out. I really felt like it was like watching paint dry in a couple of episodes where I was just like, just get on with the program. And they also had, things that they were leading to a big something happening and then it would all lead to nothing. So I was very frustrated with that show. I heard the second season is a lot more fast paced, leads right into Rogue One, and K2SO the robot's going to be back, and Alan Tudyk, who was also in Firefly, Resident Alien, and a bunch of other sci-fi properties and movie properties, is going to be returning as his voice. Very excited about that, and he was pretty much one of the best things in Rogue One. He was very entertaining and a very new, fresh character. So we have to look forward to Andor season two, probably early next year, probably around March timeframe, if they go with the current kind of schedule that they've been doing, which is like every 4 to 6 months they try to ramp up a new series. We also finished up Tales of the Empire, which was a little disappointing. It was an animated shorts series, not quite as good as Tales from the Jedi, but still some interesting stuff. So check that out if you haven't already caught up on that. And not much else on the television front. We're hoping to hear more about possibly Lando Calrissian show coming down the pike at some point. There was some whispers about Donald Glover possibly getting more involved and becoming a showrunner on that. So we'll see what happens. But still, a lot of this is unconfirmed rumors. So we'll see how it transpires. Just one other big element that's been going on in the Star Wars universe is video games. The Outlaws game was released. Unfortunately, didn't do very well. And I think it was a little overpriced. I think it was a little underwhelming. Didn't quite deliver a lot of what people were expecting. The developer has quickly come back out and said they're coming up with updates, fixes, expansion packs in November to try to get people on board with it. But it was a little bit of a disappointing launch. They really were hyping this up as this new expansive Grand Theft Auto Star Wars game. But it fell short of the mark a little bit. Let's hope that through some updates and through some further development, they can salvage that. We saw it happen with Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was a big game that came out about 2 years ago. Had a disastrous launch.
Oh yeah, it did.
Buggy, so buggy that they had to give everybody refunds. Then they fixed it. This is not quite on that scale. Just it was lackluster sales. Some people complaining that it was overpriced for what the content that was included. So they are going to try to remedy that. And it is also coming out on Steam in November, I think November 13th. So that might get some PC players. There's cross-platform play. So I think if they can build an audience, build some interest in the game, it might have some legs and maybe become a new platform for Star Wars. So we'll see how it goes. There's also been a rumor that the character of Cal, played by Cameron Monaghan, may actually appear in either the Ahsoka show or some other Star Wars property in the future in live action. So people, again, complete rumor, but people would be very excited about that. Both those games, Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order, were very well received. They are platformer games that are single player, but that character really resonated with people, really resonated with fans. So maybe that has legs and that will continue on. We'll have to see how that goes. On the 501st front, I just want to thank IFB for really showing their support for our big event that we had over the summer in July for the Cerebral Palsy Association. Our mini con was a huge success. I know you guys covered it and did some uh, reports from there. We had Catherine Mary Stewart come.
Oh yeah, she was
Uh,
awesome.
we had William Ragsdale from Fright Night come. We had some other actors, including Joe Zazzo. We had Michael Jan Friedman, who's a famous Star Trek author. We had so many exciting guests, and you guys were one of them, were two of them. So thank you for coming
Yeah. What was?
and
Do you remember
really
what the? Do you
showing some
remember how much we
fan
raised?
support there. As you always say, the fans fuel the fleet. So for us, really getting the word out about the convention, really getting the word out about what we were doing. I'm very happy to report that after everything was tallied, we raised over $6,000 in that one day for the
Wow.
charity.
Excellent.
Between our raffles and the fundraising we were doing there, we had a little live auction that we did.
Yep.
It was just an astounding outpouring of support from the fan community. So we really are hoping to do it next year. We're hoping to have the fourth annual one around the same time, July 19th next year in 2025 at Levittown Hall. So we're already getting some ideas, getting some guests lined up. Hopefully you guys can join us again if you can work it into your
Oh,
schedule and
definitely.
get your
Yeah,
table.
definitely.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But we'd love to have you back. We
Well,
have some
thank you.
exciting things coming up. We have wall-to-wall Halloween events coming up in October. I can't even describe to you how busy it is. And then to add to that, we have Comic-Con right in the middle of that middle weekend, the 15, 16, 17. It's going to be absolutely insane. We're going to have over 35 of our members there over the course of the 4 days. We're going to have Blaster Trooper going on. We're going to be raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation and raffling off a giant Razor Crest, the HasLabs one. That's one of the biggest ships they've ever produced. It's going to be awesome, and we're just hoping to raise as much money as we can for Make-A-Wish, and we're there to answer your questions. If you are interested in joining the 501st, interested in what we're doing, please come by and check us out. We're going to be in the River Pavilion, which is up on the third floor. It's a very, very top, all the way in the back. That's where they're putting all the costumers and costume groups this year. We're not thrilled about it, but hopefully find us. So please seek us out and please find us and please show your support. Even if you're just going to check us out, if you'd like to make a donation to Make-A-Wish and participate in the raffles or our Blaster Trooper, please come by and do so. We'd love to see you. We also have another big event later this year for the Cerebral Palsy Association. We have a Sugar Plum Ball and Galactic Gala. It's an event where we have with their parents come and experience like a little ball. And we have some of our participants from our learning center come with their parents. So it's kids with disabilities and kids without disabilities coming together in a very fun ball, a very fun party. We have the Saber Guild come and attend and do some Jedi training. We have the Rebel Legion come and represent the Jedis and light side and rebels. And it's always a fun time, and it's always a big fundraiser for the Cerebral Palsy Association in Nassau County. And again, we could not do it without all the help of all the other Star Wars costume groups who come to support it. So that's coming up December 8th, and we're very excited about that as our big holiday event that we do every year. And then next year, who knows? We have tons of stuff coming up. We're always booked and always looking for new experiences and new ways to help out different charities. If you're looking for information about the 501st, you can check us out at 501st.com. And if you'd like to find out about the 501st in the New York area, you can check out the Empire City Garrison at 501ecg.com. So please check us out. We also are on Facebook. We have an Instagram page at 501ecg as well. So please check us out and see what we're going to be up to.
Well, that's fantastic. Chris, thank you very, very much for the update and the insights, as well as the invite to the next minicon. We will be there, and we loved the last time was incredible. Was you had invited us multiple times. We made it to the last one. We had a real good time. Thank you for that, and we look forward to supporting you in the next one. Before you go, I picked these up. You're probably well aware of these.
Oh,
However,
yes.
these are the 2006 DVDs, right?
Yes.
And
I still have my copies. I treasure them.
I had not, I didn't realize that I was waiting for, the next evolution would have been the Blu-ray and the whatever, and they never came out, right? So these were the equivalent to the 3 trilogy VHS original, right? Unedited and
Right.
unworked. So
Those are
I
the closest you can get to a despecialized edition that was
yeah,
official.
yeah.
But again, the fans will not rest. If you search, you can find some fan edits, fan 4K
Oh,
Blu-ray on what they call
Upscale.
despecialized
Yep.
versions.
ooh,
Do your research. Do your research,
okay.
and you can find them. Seek them out, and you will find them. If you have a nice setup and you want to see them in full surround sound and full 4K glory, there's people that have taken the 4K sources, the 4K Blu-rays, and taken out all the special stuff as best
Oh,
as they can
wow.
and re-edited them back together. The fans will not rest until they have those pure versions.
Well, this is a treat. I just got these off of eBay. I actually had overlooked these, and so now that I have them, I'm gonna enjoy these
Even
over
the
the
discs
weekend.
are nice. If you look at the discs are
Yeah,
picture discs. They're
I'm gonna
really nice.
open them up
Yeah.
and show those.
They're like a
They're
snapshot from the past.
they are. They're beautiful, and I am going to have a. I haven't watched this movie the way it was now, since they came out with the VHSs. So it's
Just
over 20
on a
years.
separate note, it really shows you the importance of at some point having some kind of physical media. I
Yeah.
do have all the Star Wars. I bought the big box set that came out about 2 or 3 years ago, the 4K version of all the Star Wars movies, and I supplemented with the 4K version of Rogue One and Solo. Of course, I had to have that because you don't know. Someday I might cancel my Disney Plus subscription, or I might not have access to it, and I have a yearning to watch the 4K versions. Sometimes it's nice to have those physical copies. If it's something that's that beloved to
Yeah,
you, there is something to be
absolutely.
said for having a really good copy of
Yes.
it at your
Agreed.
disposal, at your fingertips.
Agreed. Very much agreed. Again, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time out. We love when you drop in. And we can't ask for more. We will be seeing you at New York Comic Con, which is coming up very quickly. We're going to come and visit and support all the charity and everything else that you guys do. So thank you for stopping in, and we will see you again very, very soon, I hope.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Chris.
Chris. Oh man, it's so cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We get that whole Star Wars thing going on. Yeah. All right. So, so unfortunately, Tipsy, you're not going to be able to make it to New York Comic Con.
Nope.
I will be there. Unfortunately, John One will be covering a different day. I'm going to be there Thursday, Saturday. I believe John One's going to be there on Sunday, Friday. Okay. So yeah, so we'll make our way independently up to and visit with the 501st, the Empire City Garrison, and Chris Fian and the guys that we met. We met just about everybody at the minicon, and we had a really, really good time with that. So that was tremendous. John One is in the wings. Thank you for joining us, John, and doing all the stuff that you do for us. We love it. You have a lineup for us that goes, I think, what, 2 months, or does it go to December? We have guests all lined up. So
Then nobody can hear him. So you're gonna have to.
cool. Say
I haven't
again.
pulled him. No, I haven't pulled him over, so he's not. What he's saying, nobody else can hear but you.
Okay. So yeah. So John One is in the green room, and he has had a whole bunch of guests lined up for us. And so you guys stay tuned. We may try to set those guests up in advance, at least put them up so that everybody will know like who's coming on what
Yep.
day based on their confirmations. So that might be something we're going to do. We're going to try that out here on season 5. So we're blessed that you guys tune in, and thank you for supporting us. We also, I believe, Jean-Pierre Dorléac
Yep.
is also
He's
waiting
standing
to
by.
come on as well. He's
You
standing
ready?
by. All right. Well, I think that John, uh, bumped for uh, you're going to be bumped by Jean-Pierre. So you stand by, and then we're going to bring in afterwards. Right. So, you know, there's something to be said for an Academy Award nominee for Somewhere in Time. Emmy nominated 11 times and actually won twice, won 2 Emmys. One of them happens to be for Battlestar Galactica. The other one was for The Lot. So you're being bumped for a good cause and a great guy. We've had Jean-Pierre Dorléac on our show before, and
It was like one of
we
the very first ones we had
yeah, and
2 years
that
ago,
was like
4 years
yeah,
ago,
that was
3 years
four and
ago,
a half, over 4 years
4 years
ago.
ago.
Wow, what a gentleman. We actually, right, we've both
Yep.
Tipsy Toaster and I, we both have his book.
And
And if
it's got some really good nuggets in here. If you
oh
haven't had
my
a
God,
chance,
absolutely.
I'll show you when we get done with Jean-Pierre's interview. I'll pull up the eBay page where you can find it, and he sends every single one of them with a signature
Yep, they're
and
autographed, they're personalized,
yep.
absolutely.
and
So let me show
some
you mine.
fantastic stories in here.
Boom.
Really, really good stories in here.
Oh, heck yeah.
We're not going to
This
be able to
is-
cover them all tonight for sure, but
This is definitely for all you guys that are fans of all the shows that he's done, and he's done
Yep.
a lot of them, not only our favorite Battlestar Galactica, but man, this is definitely worth reading. A lot of fun, because it's pretty no holes barred, right?
Can you
He's
hear
gonna tell
me,
it like
guys?
yep,
Nice.
we got you now.
yeah, all right, Jean-Pierre
Hi,
Dorléac.
how are you all?
Good.
Thank
It's
you.
great
Thank
to
you
be
again.
with you.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you
it's
for
my
coming.
pleasure. Oh,
We
it's
had
my
so much
pleasure.
fun.
Believe me, it means so much to me after 45 years to find out that there are so many people who are following the series still. And even though it doesn't change, except it gets rebooted into awful other series.
Don't hold back.
Which I don't understand at all. But that's how life is in the business. You don't get called back, and besides, unless I could have done different kinds of costumes than I did for the first show, I was not interested in doing another version of Battlestar Galactica or anything else, like including Quantum Leap, which was another major bomb. But I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank all the fans who have been so loyal over the years and have sent me so many wonderful letters, and on Twitter and personally, and just in general. Really wish that I could come to Dragon Con or Comic Con, but the people have totally ignored my assistant who has written to them and don't even know who I am. So I'm a persona non grata at those conventions, and
Crazy.
unfortunately they don't invite me to come, which is sad because I did one several years ago in France, and the turnout was like over 50,000 people. So I don't know what their problem is, but they have their own problems. So anyway, it's great to be here talking to the fans and giving you sort of an insight into what it took to become the costume designer and do Battlestar Galactica.
Well, Jean-Pierre, again, it's so cool that you're still, a voice for these shows and the work, the tremendous and beautiful work that you've done. Shame on the conventions for not bringing you out. I don't that makes no sense to me or anybody here that's listening that tunes in, because your work is iconic, especially amongst
sir,
us.
Pete, they totally ignored my assistant when we asked them if they would be interested in seeing me. Two of them didn't even bother to respond. And the third person, Dragon Con, wrote back and said, "Who are you?"
Oh no.
Well,
We
shame
have
on
no
them.
idea who you are. Why would we pay you money to come to our
What?
convention? And I said, you know what? Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Oh
Jeez.
boy, what? Wow, that is. Whew, oh my God. Okay, so that's going to take a little while to settle in. I am very, very disappointed, and but all said and done, again, we have you here, and you have now an opportunity to speak with the fans. I want to just thank everybody that tunes in now and then later as well. Jean-Pierre, we have up to close to 40,000 views of our interviews and our guests that come on. We're very, very lucky and blessed. So let us share some of that goodness and your experiences. We had actually set up some of the questions beforehand. One of my personal questions that I wanted to ask you was in terms of Battlestar Galactica and those beautiful blue uniforms that the bridge crew wore. Was there any thoughts to, other than a cape, was there any idea of having them wear any other jackets or anything else? Or it was just the blue with a cape and that was it? Or was there maybe a thought to do more with them?
No, they were specific costumes for specific occasions. The very royal blue, dark royal blue uniforms were the dress uniforms, and they were trimmed in silver. And the beige uniforms that they wore were trimmed in gold, and they were the everyday uniforms. They weren't the uh, Viper hangar uniforms, which were orange, but these were the uniforms that the Colonial Viper pilots wore in the show. And there was a uh, jacket, a chocolate brown jacket that was made for those, but there was no jacket made for the blue uniforms because the blue uniforms, as I said, were dress uniforms. They all of them, the blue and the beige, had capes. Some of them were hip length, and others were to the back of the knee, like uh, Adama wore many times in the show, and they signified who was in command and who were the fighting element of Battlestar Galactica. And they were all done, handmade, and
Interesting.
unusual in the sense that they had different closings on them and different elements, including badges and so forth, and patches. And I should go into really describing what it takes to do Battlestar Galactica first, because it's a process that most fans have absolutely no idea about. And basically it comes down to the words, it's in the script. I would get a script from Glenn Larson that would be sent to me and my associates. Now, in filmmaking, in television, in actual feature films, there is the costume designer who is head of the department, who is of one union, 892. And under him are the costumers, who are dressers, more or less to say, who are in a completely separate union called 805. And we are, our wages and our hours and so forth are regulated differently by the different unions. I have, when I do a show, I have two key customers, of one for a man and one for men and one for women. And then I have two set customers who are on the trailer, on the set, who the costumes are sent to, and they are in charge of making certain that they are shot in the way they are supposed to be shot. Now, we have a breakdown that both myself and the two key customers do when we receive a script. And in the breakdown, we determine what is needed that is written in the script and what is needed for as far as production goes. And when I get a script, I go through and I color, underline every different character with a different color, and then I do a side list, and it says Apollo, scene so-and-so is wearing such and such and such. For every single person in the film, we do this costume breakdown. And then my key customers, my male and female key customers, and I compare notes to make certain we have covered all the necessities that are needed so that the production will flow very smoothly. Because to hold camera for a costume that is not working, what was the word they used for Janet Jackson's costumes when she showed her breast on TV?
There's a costume malfunction. I think it's
malfunction. We have to cover every malfunction possibly conceived. So when I'm doing my costume breakdown, when it comes to a costume that I see they're going to march through the swamps like they did in Battlestar Galactica in the Young Warriors, where they marched 20 Cylons through swamp water up to their knees, up to their waist, which I was never aware of. It was not in the script. And had I known, I would have probably had a heart attack because they ruined over $150,000 worth of costumes by pulling that stunt without telling me.
That's a lot.
I have to foresee all of the problems, all of the special effects that go into making a movie for every single scene. So if they are using stunts, so I have to make costumes that are identical to the lead's costumes for the stuntmen to wear. And if it's more than one thing, for example, I did a film called Heart and Souls with Robert Downey Jr., in which he climbs this facade of this building and then falls on a picket fence and collapses to the ground. I needed 6 suits that were identical so that they could paint stain the print of the newly painted fence on his suit, for one thing, and another scene when he was covered in mud. So what I'm trying to tell you is that sometimes the costume you see is not one costume, but it's in Heart and Souls. It was 6 costumes that was aged, as we call it, through the various things that he had to go through to make it happen. Now, this is just for made-to-order costumes, which is basically what most of the principals wear. When you are working in a film and you are doing clothes for a leading actor, and you're buying things from off the rack from some department store, so forth, you also have to take into account the time and the wear this actor is going to go through the costume. You have to make certain you have more than one shirt, because you can't use the same shirt from one day to the next because it's dirty, it's wrinkled, it's not at all presentable. And you have to remember that what I'm dealing with every single costume is matching identically because you can't do one scene one day and one scene the next day and have different collars on the shirt, different anything. They all have to match perfectly. When I was doing Heart and Souls, Charles Grodin played a character who had to have triples on his costumes for the various things he had to do. And I sent out fabric to a tie maker and said that I needed 5 identical ties made, bow ties. And they came back and they were all the same bow tie, but the pattern of the fabric was not the same, and they were absolutely useless to me. I had to completely throw them away because the person who I sent them to did not understand, even though I told him that they had to be identical. He didn't listen carefully, and he didn't understand that the pattern had to be identical from one bow tie to the next, because we were repeating them from day to day, and they were actually different ties. So there's an awful lot that goes into being a costume designer that is not simply drawing a sketch and giving it to the workroom and then magically it appears. I have to work for hours with the tailors and with the women cutter fitters on every single garment so that it falls the way I want it to do and that it looks absolutely perfect before it ever goes to the set. And this also includes very incidental things like when you're doing a contemporary show and you've got a guy in a suit, not only does he have to have triple shirts, he has to have triple ties, and he has to have triple underwear, and he has to have triple socks. You don't want some actor wearing the same socks for 3 days in a way. So there is so much to costume designing that is far above the creating a wonderful look and have it ready for camera. The last thing that's in my mind when I am designing a costume has absolutely nothing to do with how wonderful it's going to be. I am simply answering what is in the script or what I have gotten through the producer through production meetings when I say to them, what would you like them color to be in? What are you hoping to achieve with this costume? If it's a young lady who is an ingenue, do you want her to look like Little Mary Sunshine? I mean, or do you want her to look like she's been around for some time? There's all kinds of things that go into creating costumes that the public is not aware of. The fact that people really, honestly, I'm thrilled by this, adore my work, is not because of the work I actually do. It's the finished product that they fall in love with that, to be very honest with you, is not really ever the reason why the costume was made. I do not make costumes because they're pretty or beautiful. Unless, of course, the script requires it. But all of my work comes from the script and from what I get from the producer. The director has very little to say in television. In features, he does. But in television, he's a hired gun, and he has nothing to say about what the costumes are. It all comes from the producer. So I've wanted to explain this to the fans for years and years and years, that I'm thrilled to no end that you find my work fascinating. That means a great deal to me, but that was not my intentions ever in anything that I've ever done.
Wow. That was a masterclass in and of itself. Can we are, as big Battlestar Galactica fans and fans of all of your work, Jean-Pierre, the other very, very super iconic character is the Cylon. And it's so beautifully made. What can
The
you
Cylon was, yeah, the Cylon was from Glenn's concept. Um, I designed the Cylon. There's been a lot of controversy that Ralph McQuarrie, who was the storybook artist, who drew pictures for the first um, for the first script, as you see before you, uh, were simply things that he arbitrarily made up on his own to make a painting that went into the original script. The original script was as big as a telephone book, and it had 21 illustrations in it. And the first thing that Glenn Larson told me um, when he met with me, he said, "I want you to completely and totally ignore what the Cylons look like in the illustrations that are in the script. I hated them. I didn't want them at all, and I don't want them to be in a total gunmetal gray. I want something uh, to bring them to life, and what I'd like to do is do them in chrome." And I said, "Oh, Glenn, I mean, you're opening up a can of worms here that's going to be impossible to control, because they're going to reflect everything. They're going to reflect the crew. They're going to reflect all the people around them. It's going to be colors galore and so forth." He says, "Don't worry about that, Jean-Pierre. I'll take care of that. You just give me something that is uh, terribly eye-catching and is very menacing. And I want you to keep in mind that they are uh, come from a serpent race, and although they have become these mechanical beings, these robots, they are still based upon the serpentines, as you will see when you get to the Imperial leader, that I want you to design to look like a cobra head." And I said, "You got it, Glenn." And I went to work. I did a whole underbody uh, spandex, uh, gunmetal gray spandex that was all ribbed to create a, an underbody for the Cylons. It was actually sort of like a leotard that went up to the chest, and then when the actor or the stuntman wore it, he had huge suspenders that went over his shoulders to keep it up front and back, because it was of empire, meaning it stopped at the breast area, and there was nothing on further up than that, except a neck piece that went underneath the helmet that was also ribbed. And all the rest of the pieces in the costume were all made. We hired a sculpturist whose name was Magda, who ended up working for me on also Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, doing Ardala's costumes and various other things. But she sat with huge amounts of plasticine and would carve out the helmet and the shoulder pads and the arm pieces and the knee pieces and so forth in plasticine, and then they were cast in a plaster of Paris uh, uh, form, and then the plastic resin that was white was poured in, and we got the pieces. And when the pieces were done, we would send them to special effects paint shop, and they were laminated with chrome colored paint so that they looked like mirrors. And it was a whole process. And then to make them go together like one unit, there was black Velcro underneath each piece that held it together, and then over the seam where the black Velcro had been placed underneath, there was still a seam left between the two pieces, like in the shoulder pad. We had silver Mylar tape that was 1.25 inches wide that we would then put over the seam so that you couldn't see the seam, so they looked like they were one solid piece. It was a major act of illusion, and they were absolutely very difficult to work in. Unfortunately, having been an actor for 20 years before I became a costume designer, I always try to make costumes that are comfortable for the actors. But in this case, this wasn't going to ever happen because of what Glenn wanted. First of all, the stuntman who wore the costumes had to be 6'4" to begin with. Then there was 3 inches of lift in the heels of their shoes. Inside was 2 inches. On the outside was 1 inch. And the helmet was extendedly higher than the head was, and so it was filled with gray styrofoam, so that it not styrofoam but rubber styrofoam, and so that the helmet sat on the stuntman's head, but because there was a whole area across the eyes where the red strobe mechanism went, there was absolutely no visual way that any of these stuntmen could see out of them. And the final costume, when we put it on and we realized that they couldn't see where they were going, we took hot nails and put pinholes in the bridge of the nose on each costume in a triangle, so that if it were captured on camera, it would at least look like some kind of a visual pattern. And this was this perforated area was the only way any of the stuntmen could see out of the Cylons. When we got to the first day of shooting, they were riding horses on the soundstage that had been designed to look like the Ovion caves, where they were storing the bodies of their victims. And from what people have told me, I haven't watched the series in a long time, or the original movie. The scene was cut out, but I distinctly remember having seen it on film, because we were on the stage 12, which was the old Phantom of the Opera set, and we were using the stage of the old Phantom of the Opera, and we had the 4 Cylons on the horses that were decorated to look like some strange animal, dressed to look like some strange animal, and they were advancing towards the Ovions with swords drawn, except none of them could see where they were going, and one of them fell off the back of the horse.
Oh my gosh.
It was absolutely hysterical, but my heart was in my mouth, because I didn't want to cause anybody to have any accident, and I certainly didn't want to be responsible for anybody getting hurt. Fortunately, he wasn't hurt at all. But we realized that Glenn realized that he had to block these stuntmen as Cylons in certain ways where he could cut from one group to another, and they didn't have to advance much. So if you watch the film, the Cylons maybe move like 3 or 4 steps ahead, waving their swords, whatever it was, around. But that was about all they ever did, because they were absolutely restricted into how much movement they could make in the costume. Anyway, that's the story about the Cylons and how they came to be. And Ralph McClory had absolutely nothing to do with them. Ralph McClory is a storybook artist. You have to be a costume designer. You have to belong to the Costume Designers Guild, and only then can you design clothes for a movie. Storybook artists do not design clothes for movies. They come up with ideas, but I didn't use any of his ideas, as you see from the pictures.
Wow, awesome. We love those. I mean, all your work, but the Cylons are so incredible. One of the other characters that have lived on, and we want to hear your insight on, is Count Ibley. What was that costume like? How did that take form?
Well, it came from Glenn. Glenn wanted him to look godlike. He wanted him in white and gold, and basically that's what it came down to. Because, as you know, he turns into Satan in the film. But it was a very simple costume, and Glenn, by the time we got to this point in the series, this was more than halfway through the series when Count Iblis showed up in the screen. When Glenn interviewed me for the job, he was very, he expressed himself very well, Glenn did. I loved Glenn. Glenn was a very wonderful man. He was very generous. He was very appreciative. He never could pronounce my name. He always called me John. But he was one of the very few people I ever let him do so. Glenn used to be one of the 4 preps of the singing group in the 50s. And he'd been around, and he knew, he really knew a great deal about producing for television. And he also knew that he would hire people that he trusted who could do what he asked for. And when Universal brought me into work, they brought me into work on to do Battlestar Galactica because of my background in science fiction with Barbarella, which I did a lot of the costumes for. So Glenn was very impressed with me, and he handed me the script, and I read it, and I thought, oh my God, I'm doing Exodus in outer space. And Glenn was a Mormon, and he was very much into religion, and I thought it was very clever the way he put together Battlestar Galactica. And I showed Glenn my work, and he was really impressed. I mean, I don't generally say that because most producers don't say that to me. When I ask them what they would like me to bring to the project, they usually say, get the fucking actors dressed and on the set and don't hold the camera. I don't give a fuck what they're wearing. I mean, producers in this business know absolutely zero about costume designing. And I was really thrilled to work for Glenn, because Glenn, after I showed Glenn some of my original sketches after talking to him, about what he wanted. After the first episode, which was, as you well know, 4 hours long with the Carillion casino and all those other things, Glenn never bothered me again. I would send over Xerox black and white pencil sketches of what I had in mind because I didn't have time to color them to send to them because what you guys don't seem to understand that for every hour episode of a TV series, we shoot it in 7 days, and while we're shooting it, we're preparing for the next episode. So I only have 7 days to get sometimes 250 costumes together for the next episode. So I'm very, very pressed for time, and unlike today, where a costume crews are sometimes 8 and 10 people, I had 4 people only, except in days where we had lots of extras, and then we hired background dressers. Anyway, after the first episode, I would just send black and white sketches to Glenn, and I would never hear from him. If I never heard from him, I knew that he liked them. If I heard from him, he wanted something changed that was usually very incidental and small. So when it came to time that we did Count Iblis, I simply spoke with Glenn and got his input, and I did the costume and made the costume up, and it went on the set, and it was worn very unappreciatively by Patrick McNee, who did everything in his power to destroy the costume so he didn't have to wear it. He was one of the most awful, awful actors I ever worked with.
Oh, wow. What a shame.
Yes, it really was, when I was surrounded by wonderful, wonderful people like Lorne Green, who was the most wonderful man in the world to work with, and Terry, who played Ty, and Richard Hatch, who played Apollo, and Lorette Spang, who played Cassiopeia. I had Maren Jensen, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful actress. I had a wonderful, wonderful group of actors to work with on Battlestar Galactica, with the exception of a couple, and one of them was Patrick McNee.
Oh, wow. Well, shame on him then, because he had this iconic character that we all remember, since he plays that, he's wearing that godlike costume, and he has a persona, but your work is what brings it to life, right? It's not only an actor's talent, but it also what they're wearing and how it looks. You've also worked on many, many other shows, but there's one that we want to mention here tonight, and that is The Greatest American Hero. Another show that we all love. How did that come about? How did you design the costume?
I only designed the costumes for him, for Billy Cat, on the pilot. I dressed other people in the show, like Connie Selica and the lead actor, whose name I can't remember. But anyway, I was basically hired to do Billy Cat's outer space costume. And I went to see Stephen Cannell, and we had a long meeting. And he told me basically that he wanted it to look real, but he also wanted a comic element to it, like a comic book element to it. And so I went back and I did 6 sketches in all different colors, and I took them back to him, and he chose the red one. And then he said, I want an emblem for his his chest to wear on this, and I want you to design something for it. And I said, what do you want? And he was sitting at his desk, and he had some scissors that he was nervously opening and clicking them closed, and because he was concentrating on trying to get his ideas across. He said, I don't know. I want it to be something unusual, never been seen before, and I'll leave it up to you. Do some sketches for me and let me see them, and we'll talk about it. So I went back to my workroom, and I sat down, and I sat there trying to figure out what I could do that would be unusual and never seen before, and still something that people would remember. I sort of have to cut to an earlier period of time during the time I came to Universal. And one of the reasons I was hired by Universal is that in 1975, 78, I don't remember what year it was, so somewhere in the 70s, 75, 78, I had a meeting to meet the phenomenal, iconic Edith Head, the greatest costume designer there ever was in Hollywood. And to this day, I have no idea why Edith took a liking to me, but she did. And years later, I figured out it had to do with the fact that I had been as trained as well as I was, and that I knew inside and out of costume designing, which most people didn't have the knowledge. And Edith loved that. And we became very good friends. And when I came to Universal to do Battlestar Galactica, it was put on hold. And in place of it, they kept me there, and they gave me The Bastard to do, which was a 18th century American revolutionary film that starts in France, and it was filled with wonderful, wonderful actors, Patricia Neal and Eleanor Parker and Lorne Greene again, and William Shatner, and it went on and on. And my very good friend Buddy Ebsen, and I was overjoyed because, I mean, like, the 18th century was really my specialty. I did that period better than anything. I knew it like I could sleepwalk doing 18th century. And I had a wonderful time doing so. And during the course of it, Edith gave me things for Patricia Neal to wear, and she gave me a fan for somebody else, for Anne Francis to wear, an actual 18th century silk painted fan, hand fan, that she gave to me for Anne Francis to use in the film. And I was simply stymied. I had absolutely no idea why Edith had fallen in love with me, but I was thrilled. And when Edith left Universal, she gave me a pair of desk scissors that had been given to her by Alfred Hitchcock, who she had done many films for. And they were a copy of the murder weapon from Dial M for Murder. They were these treacherous-looking scissors with very sharp points and loopy handles to put your hand and your fingers through to use them. And they were sitting on my desk when I was thinking about The Greatest American Hero. And the more I looked at them, I used the scissors handles for one part of the emblem and the really pointed end of the scissor ends for the others. So the emblem for The Greatest American Hero was inspired by the murder weapon from Dial M for Murder.
That's excellent. Wow. Um, well, Jean-Pierre, we are stunned and just so appreciative of you sharing your time and your stories of like all of these experiences. It's like I said earlier, it seems like it's a master class and a window into the magic of what it's like to do all of these things that you do. We want to make sure that for those that want to know more, The Naked Truth is your book that you've put together. And I believe that Tipsy Toaster, Chris Moore, has details on where we can get a copy. And there it is, it's on eBay. So for those of you that want to
It's on
know more,
eBay and it's available in hardback, and every copy is personally autographed and sent to you within a day's time. It all comes very quickly, fortunately, because eBay is very good about that. The book has sold over 700,000 copies since
wow.
it came out, and it's on X all the time, Twitter, and I think we're still selling like at least 15, 20 copies a week. Um, I, I'm absolutely overjoyed by it. It's 50. Uh, Wait, I have to remember how. Oh, it's 12 years out of my career from 1975 through like, no, I guess it's only 10 years. I don't know. It's been so long since I've even read it. Um,
73
but
to
it
85.
details in it details in very precise uh, writing about what went on in all the various films that I did during that time. It's like the beginning of my career in Hollywood, which was a real surprise to me. You know, I had come from Europe and I had worked in a lot of small films there and lots and lots of theater. I think I had done like over 43 different productions before I ever got to Hollywood on theater I don't remember how many films, and and so I thought it was very interesting for the public to actually realize how all the things one goes through to make certain that the costumes end up looking like they should when they reach the screen. And nobody had ever written about this before. And I've had wonderful, wonderful feedback. I've had one bad review from somebody who said a lot of name dropping of people I don't even know who they were.
What?
Fred
That's
Astaire,
ridiculous. They
Henry
should look it
Fonda.
up.
Yeah.
How ignorant can someone be? That is so wrong and so disrespecting.
No, it's not ignorance. It's just the lack of interest. That's all it comes down
Ah,
to. It's not really
you're
ignorance.
very kind. You're very kind, Jean-Pierre.
No. I'm just be very honest. That's I don't. You know, I never got into this business for the glory of it. I have absolutely no. I, I'm thrilled that people like my work. That I cannot say anything more than that. I'm very honored. I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because I love designing. It basically comes down to that, and the rest of the business doesn't interest me in the slightest. I was listening to the guy you had on before who was talking about Star Wars and everything. You know, when we did Battlestar Galactica, that 20th Century Fox sued Universal that we were stealing doing an imitation of Star Wars. I never saw Star Wars. When they went to court to prove that this was wrong, I was one of the leading people who stood up and said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I never saw Star Wars, so how could I have copied anything?
So
I
Jean,
later saw the first thing of Star Wars, and I've never seen the rest. I listened to this guy who was talking about all the Star Wars activity that's going on, and I listened to him talking about how they were dragging out scripts and everything. And do you know that there has been no business at all, production business, in Hollywood for almost 2 years now, due to the actors' strike and due to the writers' strike? They closed down entirely, and producers are milking the storylines to make money. This stuff that you're reading where he says it's boring and it's repetitive and so forth, they're doing it for you. They're stealing from you fans. They want money. They don't care what shit they're putting out there. And it is shit. It's just rework of this and another version of this told in another way. It's really sad that this is going on in the business, because it's putting out of work thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Hollywood. Hairdressers, grips, lighting people, script supervisors, ADs, PAs. All of these people have not worked for over 2 years because these producers are saturated with old crap that they have glued together and sold to the public. You people are being used, and it's really absolutely awful, and it's also killing the industry. There's people in this industry who have been doing it for 40 to 50 years, and they've lost their houses, they've lost their cars, they've lost their family, their wife has walked out on them, their children have moved to another state because there's no work in Hollywood. And I know 6 people personally who were major influences in this business who have committed suicide. Thank you, producers, for being the assholes you are.
Wow.
What a shame. Wow. Hopefully.
It is. It's a terrible shame. They're using people like crazy. And you people, you fans, buy this shit over and over again, no matter how many times it's been dragged out into different stories. You've got to stop doing it so they don't do this to us anymore. Quit watching this crap. It's nothing more than crap.
Agreed. Definitely.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but I get very adamant about this because there's a lot of people who have suffered because of the greed of producers.
Jean-Pierre, we here at our program here on our show, we take great pride in having people like yourself that are open and honest about, what they feel. That's what makes us different than all the rest. So we thank you. We appreciate you. We are honored that you've taken the time out to come and visit us again. We hope that there might be another visit and that we expand on your work. We talk more about other projects that you did, and you give us more insights. We totally and truly enjoyed it. Thank you, and all the best. We've put up where to get your book, The Naked Truth, and we hope that you have a continued success with that, and maybe someday you can catch it up. Maybe there can be another part 2 to that, because I know
I
you
would
have
love
more.
to talk to you, and I'm very, very grateful that I was able to talk to you. I'm sorry that I get so excited about things, but
no.
There's a lot more to life than just making beautiful costumes. And I want people to know that I'm very serious about my work and that I just don't dismiss this as a lot of people think I do by waving a wand and magically a pink dress appears. That's not how it is. There's a lot of work that goes into this. And there's a lot of deep dedication to many, many people in this industry, not just me, but many, many people in this industry who have been really uh, uh, tossed under the bus during this whole thing about producers because they won't pay money for this and that and so forth. It's really sad. They disguise the real reason why they're doing it. It's not that way at all. They're simply trying to get their their funds together, more or less to say.
Mhm.
Anyway, it's been a wonderful evening to talk to you, and I wish you guys all the best. And I really am very grateful that you guys have an organization to promote the old series. I mean, 45 years ago. So
Yep,
that's
that's right.
quite a period of time. And it's wonderful, and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much, and good night.
Thank
Cheers
you.
to you,
We hope to have you
Jean-Pierre
back.
Dorléac. Thank you so much for coming on. And we say here on IFB, fans fuel the fleet. Thank you for doing what you've done and continue to speak out to. And we wish you all the best and hope to see you again soon. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, that's so cool. So we got a a chance to revisit with Jean-Pierre Dorléac, which is so cool to have him enlighten
Oh
us
yeah.
on what's going on. Like I said, it was like a master class. Like he broke it all down, told us
I
all. I mean,
There
I've
was
been
so many
so
questions popping through. I wish we had time to go through all of them. I
oh man, I
apologize that
mean,
we didn't get to them all, but we'll send them out
yeah.
to Jean-Pierre, and maybe he can.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, we can do that. That would be
yeah,
great. Some of these things, like what he talked about, you have to go to like a really big 4 years university dedicated specifically to film, and even then, the Fashion Institute of Technology is a place that you would be able to hear what he said, in that kind of detail. But your regular film classes don't describe, they don't teach you, they didn't get it, they don't get into what he was saying to us, like the inside stuff that he was telling us is just phenomenal. And I really, really enjoyed hearing from him. And
yeah.
that was
I
really
was just,
cool.
so some parts of the book that some things that you may not have, you may have heard before in the past or whatever else, but it's nice to see some of the things that come through on this. And I just was rolling around and found a spot. He was he's talking about Battlestar Galactica. So the first star to be cast was Lauren Green, who would play Adama, the leader of the fleeing colonies, and father of the three offspring: Apollo, played by Richard Hatch; Zach, played by Rick Springfield; and Athena by Marion Jensen. Green's character required numerous changes and doubles for stunts. In many scenes, of primary importance was the dress blue uniform he would wear on the bridge, and he was in total command. I was eager to start his fittings, having just worked with him on The Bastard, and therefore greeted him with all a warm embrace. After showing him the sketches for his uniform, Mark and I fit him already into an already made uniform. He says, this is from Lauren Green. He says, do you think his tunic could become more of a vest? He inquired hesitantly, peering at himself in the three-way mirror. I'm the father of all these young fighters, an authority figure. It would be nice if I could hook my thumbs up here somewhere into my armpits. What do you think? I looked at Mark, who was rolling his eyes, and promised Lauren I would take it up with Glenn.
Wow, that's a nice one. No, it's really cool. And so, you guys that are watching, we had interviewed Jean-Pierre in our first year, like the one of the first
Yep.
interviews that we did. We had him come on, and he didn't know us from, I mean, not that he really knows us, but at least, you know, he's coming back to a show, a well-established now show that's in its 5th season. And when we asked him to come on, we'd only done it a couple of times.
Yeah.
And he such a graceful guy, really nice
So
man.
knowledgeable.
And I mean, you know, this is a pro. This is like a high level, you know, he came on to IFB and he was really, really gracious, as nice as he was tonight.
Oh yeah.
Man, what
So-
a great guy. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Jean-Pierre Dorléac, for
One of the things,
talking.
one of the
with
things
us.
that he didn't get to tonight, but I wanted to mention. I always wondered where patches came from, and certain ones were military patches, you know, from everything else. But he is the one that actually designed the Galactica patch, the circle
Yeah,
patch
that's
with all the
cool.
triangles. He
That's
designed
cool.
that one, so that's kind of a cool
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
You always, you always see the patch, and you just never go like, okay, yeah, that's a patch.
Yeah.
It's not one of the military patches that were reused in some of the other pieces, but it was an actual patch that was made up. And he's like, yeah, I made that. I created a lot of these things.
We have in the green room, we have John 1.
Yes.
Let's bring on John 1, because
I don't
know
have
that-
his PowerPoint up yet, so you're gonna have to give me a minute. Because
Okay,
does he have a PowerPoint?
no.
No. Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just bring him up.
John 1 is just coming on.
Just coming on. Okay, we
Coming
can
on.
do that. Hang on.
Yes, we can.
No, we
So-
can't. Yes, we can. No, we can't.
Yes, we can. Of
No,
course we can. We can do you can do anything. You are
Gotta
the
give me a
master.
second.
You are the master of this. I wanted to mention that our first episode of season 5, where we had Eric Larson and Lorette Spang and Jack Stauffer, right? Cassiopeia and Lieutenant Bojay. We were just about 9,000 views or plays. So I just want to thank all the fans for watching the interview and our season opener for season 5. And it was our anniversary, IFB anniversary, as well as anniversary of the original Battlestar Galactica. So I just want to thank everybody that watches this later on. Our numbers are very, very strong. And so we will continue doing what we do. I'll tell you this much, that we are working on a plan to get to San Diego Comic-Con next year, which is, of course, the mecca of conventions, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. If you guys have been watching, you know that we've talked about how there's 2 other bigger comic book sci-fi conventions in the world. The biggest one is in Japan, and the second one is in Italy, in Lucca, Italy, with 250,000 more fans go to it a year. But here in the United States, one of the biggest and best known is, of course, San Diego Comic-Con. And with the help, I think, of Sci-Fiction and Owen Cotter, it looks like we may be able to team up and get to it next year. So we're looking forward to working out logistics to do that, and then bring you guys, more interviews and more, great stuff. And here we go. John 1, how are you?
Yep.
And so let's see. Is you got to unmute yourself, John?
How's that? You got me now?
There you go.
We got it.
All right.
All right, cool. So
I don't know what I hit.
Awesome. So, John, what did you think of Jean-Pierre the second time? Jean-Pierre Dorléac second time on. What did you think of that?
I thought the stories, I mean, the uniforms, his craft was great. I mean, he made iconic uniforms. Buck Rogers too. Aaron Gray. I want to ask a question of that, but I just like to see Aaron Gray in that uniform. But yeah, I mean, the colors, the fabrics. He knew what to do. I saw the picture of the Imperious leader. He looked more better than in the picture than he did in the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But,
true. That's true.
But I understand why he was so lit up. Everyone said that the actor strike is all fixed up, but he's not saying that. As fans, I think we should say, hey, listen, he's kind of right. We're getting the same stuff, the cheap series,
Yeah.
Acolyte, Skeleton Crew is just going to be made to make money. And as fans, we're like, hey, people make these props. They do these, the AD, the prop guys, the grips, all these guys, they're all working. and no one's doing all this stuff is being stifled, all the creativity is being shut out, then that's wrong. We demand more. So hopefully, as fans, we should say, hey, start getting us some new good stuff that's out there. The
Absolutely.
creativity is
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Let's push for it.
How many times can you see Star Wars? How many times can you
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
Star Trek?
exactly. I
How many times
right?
can you remake the same thing? There's
Yeah,
other
this-
there's other things out there. Get some other writers, get some other great stories out there for this kind of thing. And then of course a lot of the and I believe I've talked to him in the past in regards to just the cheapness of some of the productions, because they'll just buy stuff off the rack. They'll go to Kmart or whatever else
Yeah.
and just buy
Yeah.
stuff off the rack, and that's not costuming. That's just dressing. And
Yes. Yes.
he's told me about that in the past in regards to he was kind of disappointed with the Battlestar thing. And the Battlestar thing was like, what, they took 2 T-shirts. That was really difficult.
I mean, like I was talking to a gentleman trying to get him on the show. He did his props, but the helmet that Kurt Russell wore in The Soldier,
Mhm.
that was
Okay.
actually just made for him by a person.
That's
So,
cool.
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a lot of
Oh,
work. And
The Soldier's a
not being in
great
it.
movie.
Yep.
Really, really good movie. That would be very cool to find out more on that.
Try
So
to get 'em.
guys, I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. John is on. John Repper, your posts are really cool. Thank you. Of course, Rob Baum, our unofficial fact checker. So guys, one of the things that we had to preset with Jean-Pierre was we had to preset our questions so that he could have a narrative to follow. And that was, part of what he asked. So Tipsy and I got together and we kind of outlined the questions for him. And so that's one of the reasons that we weren't taking any of your questions, unfortunately. But
That we just didn't have
Tipsy,
time.
yeah. So we
But I
will
think we
try to
can
get those
we
to
can
him.
get those to him, and I'm sure
Yeah.
he will answer them for us.
Yeah. So
He's big on X. If you go on to X
Oh, yeah.
and look him up and ask questions in there, he is very fast and very quick to answer every single one of your questions. If you got a
Oh,
question
yeah.
about any of the costumes, he is very quick to come back and tell you exactly some of the stuff that some of the questions and some of the things he's done. But yeah, so if you ever have any questions, we can start putting them there. But we'll definitely get back with him, and I think he's also stated that he would come back on again. So we would have him
That's cool.
come on in a
Very
couple more
cool.
months, maybe, and do a Buck Rogers breakdown or something.
No, that would be very awesome.
Yeah.
I know that. All right, so next week, I will be on the west coast of the United States, and John One will be filling in for me. So, John, thank you for sitting in the co-pilot seat next week.
Sure.
And do you know who the guest is that's lined up?
Who was it? I think it's JJ Flecker, I think, or somebody. I'm not that sure. So I'll get it to you today. I think I sent it to you.
All right,
Forgot
cool.
what it was.
Yeah. So, like we said, we're gonna try to put up in advance our guest list, and so this way we can lock them in a little bit in advance, which I think might work for us at least now that we're in season 5. And I am looking forward to this season. We're going to be doing a lot of great things. The Stranded Warrior, of course, continues to do great in terms of our trailer. Everybody worked very, very hard on that project, and it
Yep.
shows, right? We have 3 wins. As a matter of fact, we're getting a trophy from one of the 3 that we won overseas, and that's in the mail. So we'll have
Ooh,
a
cool.
trophy to show you guys soon enough. And then next month we will find out more from some of the other international film festivals. Will be announcing their choices and selections and winners and the like, and we're going to be in the mix. So stay tuned for that as we inch our way closer to completion. We were talking with the entire team today prior to IFB, and man, we have such a great team. that's working on the Stranded Warrior, from Chuck Davenport to Chris Marshall and Dorian Keyes, and of course the Tipsy Toaster, Chris Moore, who are hands on the post production process of all of this, and we are moving, and I am so proud of all the
Yep.
work that's going in,
It
and
looks
you
amazing.
guys,
It's
you're going to
Yep.
be very happy with what the final product is.
Oh.
So it's incredible. So guys, just a little more patience. But in the meantime, hopefully you've seen the new poster, the official
Mhm.
movie poster, and well, it's really
Looks
really
great.
cool. Oh
Looks
yeah,
great.
very cool. And so a lot of good things happening and coming. I know that Eric Larson was very pleased with his visit, as well as Lorette was very happy, and
Yep.
Jack Stauffer. Let's not forget that we
Yep.
have the private signing, and we've met
Working on
the
that still.
minimum, right? We met
Mhm.
the minimum that he wanted. So guys, we're gonna announce in October. We're going to be announcing the rest of the details. We're going to announce the actual price point that we have to meet so that we can make this all happen. Because remember, we have to actually have the pictures made. We're going to have a choice of three, right? So there will be
Oh.
one of three ABC for you to choose from, and then they will be personalized if that's what you want. And then so we'll get down to that. And then so you still have time to jump on and tell us if you're interested in getting one of these. It's going to be very reasonable and competitive, and the bulk of this goes to
Yep.
wherever Jack says, charity or otherwise. And so, for those of you that do not have an 8x10 autographed by Jack Stauffer, Lieutenant Bojay, uh, he's saying to us, he told us that he is not going to be going to any more conventions. He
Right.
is not doing any conventions. So
Wow.
we have convinced him to do a signing. So if you want one, please let us know so that we can get all this done in one shot.
That's awesome.
Gentlemen, yeah,
Our next guest for next week is A.A. Warren.
okay,
A.A.
excellent.
Warren, so.
So stay tuned for that. Tipsy, what do you got?
Not a whole lot. Just getting ready to get out. I did get something in the mail today from Dragon Con.
What'd you get?
So every year you are able to do a Dragon Con thing where if you there's so much walking around at Dragon Con that you have to do that you can't have to do to do things. They have like a little award style thing that you can get, and that is the Dragon Con 5K.
Ah, how do you
Wow.
get that? I never knew they had that.
Yeah. So you sign up for it and you donate your money, and then it's the 5K one. And I mean, this is a really nice medal too.
Wow.
Wow.
And
That's cool.
Look at it's even got the thing on
Ooh.
the back, and it's nice
Lanyard. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Arthritis Foundation Dragon Con Hustle 5K Trek.
Wow. Very nice.
So
It sure
and it
is.
was easy to do 5K during the
Oh, yeah.
the con
Walking
because
around.
it's so far, so many places around. So
Very
I have
cool.
I have a medal now.
You have
award
an
myself a
official,
medal.
yes. You have
I'm gonna put in for that next year.
Adam, thanks for joining us live here on IFB Interfleet Broadcasting as we do our wrap up. We had Jean-Pierre Dorléac, costume designer for multiple movies and TV shows. We focused, of course, on our main love battles, the original Battlestar Galactica. We had Chris Fian. He is the commander of the Empire City Garrison of the 501st Legion. So he gave us a Star Wars update. John One, our anchor, and also an associate producer here on IFB. Thank you for putting stuff together and getting us, exposure and the guests and everything that you do. Thank you very much, John. Really appreciate that. And of course, Tipsy Toaster was going bananas trying to get everybody in place, get everybody up on the air. So that was interesting. So, John, any last words?
We have a great year. I'm glad to get guest set up. Me and want to say thank you to Lola and Superfan Fran for getting some guests my way. I just sent them emails. Me and Fran are working on something for maybe next year. We got some good ideas, so working on that. We're gonna send up a proposition and see what happens.
Just
and
reach
get
out
know
to
it.
different ones of the literary track and everybody else.
Yeah, I think we'll do a couple tracks next Dragon Con next year. We'll try to get there. So IFB is going to try to make a big presence there again.
Yep.
So hopefully the movie's coming out, and a movie track and a film track and a military sci-fi track. We should do a lot. We got some good ideas.
Very cool. Thank you for that. George Z, Captain Martin of the Stranded Warrior has dropped in. Thank you for supporting IFB, George Zuvalos. We appreciate it. And we're looking forward to having the Stranded Warrior, which you star in, out as soon as we can. But in the meantime, the trailer has done really, really well internationally and continues to. So thank you for dropping
raking him in. It's raking him in.
Absolutely. Tipsy?
That's it. So once again, Jean-Pierre, thank you so much for coming back on. And we hope to have you on again soon. We're not going to wait 4 years this time. But it's important that we all recognize the people that are front of the camera, behind the camera, people who make the movies and make the books and make the costumes. It's fantastic to have people that make those things that we kind of live in. So thank you for everyone. Thank you for the fans that are watching our show now or watching it in rerun or syndication. Anyways, thank you so much. And we hope to see you next Thursday. Same bat channel, same bat place. And we'll be here.
Yep. You see you
Here's
guys.
to you. Fans feel the
All
fleet.
the best. Fans feel the fleet.
Fans feel the fleet.